Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 207 based on novel. So let's start. In the empty hall, the blood gas was mixed in the air, forming a thick blood fog. Bodies were lying here in all directions. The scene looked very seeping. At this time, there were 3 strangers in the hall, one of whom was Xiao Yan. At the moment, Xiao Yang's body was stiff like a sculpture. He lifted 1 foot into the air and stopped at a position less than 2 inches from the ground. The expression on the face is particularly wonderful. The previous dignified expression no longer exists. On the contrary, what is replaced at the moment is an extremely surprised expression. A pair of painted black eyes are full of incredible expression. It was not until a long time later that Xiao Yang gradually recovered from his long shock. In the process of Xiao Yang's absence, the 2 black-robed people behind him did not bother, but took off the broad black robe covering his face and exposed his true face in the bloody hall. When Xiao Yang turned around and looked at the 2 people behind him with suspicious eyes, the familiar friendly smile on the 2 faces made the former feel like a dream. The 2 sides settled down and smiled at each other for a long time. After that, Xiao Yang threw a heavy fist at the old man who just spoke, bowed down and said respectfully, "Younger Xiao Yang, see old Luo." At this moment, the blood mist in the air dispersed automatically, opening a pure channel between the 2 sides. At the moment, Luo Laro also looked at Xiao Yang with a smile, showing the color of comfort and satisfaction on an old face. The so-called Luo Laro, of course, was Luo Ao, who had not seen him for many years in Lungsue City. As for another young man beside him, naturally, after Xiao Yang came to Yuanwu mainland, of course, whether Xiao Yang voluntarily gave up or not, it will make Luo Ao and Luo Ao feel a little sorry. Therefore, the original power of the soul sealed in the stone statue has naturally become a prop to smooth out this layer of apology. Before the 3 raised their feet and came to the stone statue, Luo Ao looked at Xiao Yang and nodded gently as a sign. Seeing this, Xiao Yang moved his mind, put forward a soul force from the soul bead, slowly approached the stone statue, and then injected it through the stone statue's eyes. Buzzing, buzzing. At that time, a golden light rose rapidly on the surface of the stone statue, enveloping the whole stone statue. Luo Ao saw this, his eyes flashed slightly, and a look of surprise flashed on his old face. It can be seen that this layer of golden light is an array, and it seems that its level is not low. It is left by the Supreme Master Tianjue to protect the stone statue. With extraordinary eyesight and experience, Luo Ao can see that as long as there is the protection of this special array, once someone wants to forcibly seize the soul power in the stone statue will explode in an instant, and the power of the source of the huge soul will explode. Unexpectedly, the old boy is quite careful. It seems that this should be a 6th order array, but the technique is not very pure. Luo Ao expressed his views while looking at the golden light on the stone statue, while Luo Jin couldn't help raising his eyebrows and said in surprise, "6th order array mage, isn't that the same as you?" "Go, shut up, smelly boy. If I hadn't been too lazy to practice, how could I be comparable to a dead man 1,000 years ago?" As soon as Luo Jin's voice fell, Luo Ao hurriedly blocked back, and then glanced at the array in front of him again, saying with a slight irony, "Although it's a 6th order array, I'm afraid it just happened to break through the 6th order before I died." On hearing the speech, Luo Jin glanced at the latter with a slight smile, showing a joking color in his eyes, and secretly said in his heart, "Grandpa, when you broke through level 6, it seems that your cultivation has reached the Source King, and this guy." In the early days of returning to the Source territory, the 6th order array mage, relying on this alone, I'm afraid that the Luo beside him can't compare with it. If the Heavenly Master didn't fall for no reason, his achievements would be far more than this. When Luo Ao and Luo Jin teased each other, Xiao Yang at this time continuously injected a huge soul force into the stone statue. At the same time, his own consciousness also followed into the stone statue. The consciousness didn't enter the stone statue. Xiao Yang's whole spirit immediately felt that he was like entering the deep sea. The terrible pressure squeezed his soul hard and almost crushed him. What a terrible threat to the soul! Xiao Yang felt frightened. It seemed that he had never felt such a terrible threat of soul. Xiao Yang had no doubt that his consciousness would be crushed by this huge soul force if he stayed here for a long time. While Xiao Yang's soul power was under huge pressure, the external body's face turned white at the moment, and the expression on his face was also distorted. His body couldn't stop shaking, as if he was bearing something, which startled the two people on one side. "What's the matter with him?" Luo Jin frowned and worried about Xiao Yang. Seeing this, Luo Ao also frowned and said solemnly, "The boy seems to have been suppressed by the origin of the soul in the stone statue. After all, he is a 6th-level soul power. He is several times stronger than this boy. If he stays for a long time, he may be crushed by the soul power inside." "What? Grandpa Wu, you should save people quickly. You must not let Xiao Yang have an accident." Hearing Luo Ao's words, Luo Jin's face suddenly became nervous, his heart moved, and his soul power suddenly surged outward, so he wanted to come forward. "Come back." Just when Luo Jin was about to make a move, he was pulled back by Luo Ao. At the same time, those soul forces were forcibly taken back. "You boy, I don't think you've been so interested in a woman at ordinary times. How come you're more worried about Xiao Yang than himself?" Luo Ao glanced at Luo Jin with a strange look on his face. Soon, he turned his eyes to Xiao Yang and said, "If he is really willing to come out, he can come out at any time, and he guarantees that he will not be hurt by the source of the soul inside, but you see what he looks like now, he clearly wants to continue to insist. Since this is his own will, why should we forcibly block it, just to prevent him from being hurt?" Hearing the speech, Luo Jin frowned and looked at Xiao Yang, whose face was getting whiter and whiter at the moment, full of hesitation. He can imagine that the reason why Xiao Yang can have today's strength must be that he has suffered a lot along the way and can't pay. How can he repay? The latter pays the maximum limit of pain he can bear. He breaks through the limit again and again in repeated attempts and challenges, and receives returns in pain and suffering. Xiao Yang's achievements are beyond the reach of Luo Jin. But if he doesn't retreat all the time, don't worry, once something happens, I will pull his soul power out of it at the first time. You are not the one who doesn't want him to happen. I can't bear to let him have an accident. If he can continue to grow, I believe that one day, this continent will tremble for it, just like the man in those years." He whispered in his mouth. Luo Ao's deep old eyes couldn't help flickering slightly. In his heart, he thought of a legend. 1,000 years ago, a mysterious man was born on the mainland and grew up at an amazing speed. In less than 100 years, the mysterious man became the top power on the mainland. Even the first sect on the mainland today is far from comparable. When it breaks through the legendary realm, the whole continent changes for it. No one has ever seen his real appearance, and no one has ever been able to talk with him. The only information known to him is that the mysterious head has a piece of gorgeous long hair with different colors, which is elegant and free from vulgarity. While Luo Ao fell into reverie, Xiao Yang was still struggling to support at this time. He could hardly breathe because of the huge soul pressure. Under the suppression of the original power of God's soul, the soul power that he constantly poured in was severely compressed together, and could not spread out at all, not to mention refining these original power. Soon, the pain that Xiao Yang's consciousness can feel is getting worse and worse. At this time, Xiao Yang can clearly feel that his soul power is about to be unable to support. If he doesn't choose to quit now, I'm afraid in a few minutes, his consciousness will be crushed by the power of the origin of the soul. At that time, even if he doesn't die, it will certainly leave irreparable sequelae to itself. The outside world, seeing Xiao Yang's face getting paler and paler without any blood color, Luo Ao at this time can't hold his breath at last. He knows that Xiao Yang really wants to get the source of the soul in the stone statue, but according to Xiao Yang's state at the moment, it is doomed to be unable to take out the power of the source of the soul. Damn it, can you just quit? Feeling the more powerful soul pressure, Xiao Yang scolded in his heart. At the same time, Luo Ao from the outside is also preparing to pull Xiao Yang's soul power, including consciousness, out of the stone statue. However, at this time, the ring between Xiao Yang's fingers suddenly flashed. A jade bottle flew out without warning. Then, a soul force spread out from the jade bottle. With a crisp bang, The palm-sized jade bottle burst. Then, Luo and Sun clearly saw a milky white energy light mass about the size of the palm of his hand. It sank into the stone statue with a whoosh. That's... Seeing the milky energy light, Luo Ao couldn't help but be a little stunned. Immediately, he was preparing to move, but he also stopped. Because, he clearly noticed that when the milky white light mass disappeared into the stone statue, the powerful soul pressure actually dissipated in an instant. At this time, Xiao Yang's body was suddenly relaxed, and the pain borne by his soul power was suddenly reduced. The whole person was like going through a big war. Inside the stone statue, Xiao Yang, who has removed the pressure, has the time to have a good look at the space inside the stone statue. The huge soul power of milky white is like a white fog floating around. Due to the eyes, I can't see anything else except a piece of white. Although he didn't know what had happened, Xiao Yang carefully spread his soul power and carefully explored the thick fog. Suddenly, the fog in front of Xiao Yang dispersed independently and condensed a substantive corridor on both sides to guide Xiao Yang in front. With curiosity in his heart, Xiao Yang walked cautiously down the corridor. After several turns, finally, in front of Xiao Yang, a large group of fog dispersed, and an old man in a robe appeared in front of Xiao Yang. Seeing the old man, Xiao Yang was stunned. Then he compared his appearance with the appearance of the stone statues outside. At the moment when their faces were perfectly integrated in their hearts, Xiao Yang couldn't help but exclaim, saying, "Heaven's greatest man." At the moment of Xiao Yang's frightened voice, the old man standing in front of him seemed to be shocked. His eyelids lifted slightly and looked at Xiao Yang in front of him. Seeing that Xiao Yang couldn't help but speak again, the old man reluctantly made a silent gesture to the latter. Immediately, he turned his eyes back to the sky over his palm. A milky white energy light mass the size of his palm was slowly floating. That's... Seeing the light group, Xiao Yang was shocked. He recognized it at a glance. It was the ghost of Xiao Xian, but why was it in his hand? What did this guy want to do? The idea flashed in his heart, and Xiao Yang's face gradually became gloomy. "Don't worry, little guy. I'm just a little curious and surprised. I spent my whole life trying to find the first volume of Guanju, but I couldn't find it until the end. I didn't expect to meet him here after nearly 1,000 years of death. Hehe, it's really time in life." It seems to be aware of the emotional change of Xiao Yang, but the old man sighed bitterly and shook his head. His eyes stared at the remnant soul of Xiao Xian over his palm, with a regretful look on his face. Hearing the old man's words, Xiao Yang's mood just slightly converged, but he was still full of vigilance when looking at the latter. Although this guy has been dead for nearly 1,000 years, with this huge soul power, if Chenjue wants to do something, Xiao Yang probably doesn't have much parry power. Therefore, in order to protect himself, he has to be cautious again and again. "I can see that he seems very important to you." He didn't pay too much attention to Xiao Yang's emotional changes. The old man said to himself. At the same time, his palm stretched out, and the energy light group over his palm slowly flew towards Xiao Yang. Seeing this, the latter quickly took it carefully in his arms. After confirming that he had not been done by the person in front of him, he was a little relieved. "Don't worry, I don't have any idea about him. After all, I was a character 1,000 years ago. Even if I were reborn now, there's nothing to fight for. What's more, I've long lived enough. I just want to know whether there is a way to break the source boundary. Unfortunately, I seem to prove that it doesn't exist." At the end of the sentence, the old man shrugged helplessly and laughed at himself. In this regard, Xiao Yang was silent, because this is well understood. Guiyuan can definitely make him smooth on the road of cultivation. However, in 100 years, he has become a generation of peerless strong man, but everything has advantages and disadvantages. Guiyuan has two disadvantages. One is the 3 most difficult barriers to cross, and the other is Guiyuan itself, which is divided into 3 volumes. If he can't cultivate the 3 volumes separately, he is doomed to be unable to become a real strong man. It can be said that God's fate is understandable. Of course, as early as that year, he himself had thought of this possibility, but he would not hesitate to pay his life in order to pursue the road of the strong. At this point, Xiao Yang has the same feeling. Suddenly, the old and young raised their eyes and stared at each other. Ha ha ha. After a few breaths, the laughter spread, and the two people had a good connection. Although they were not of the same era, they were the same kind of people. If they were not teased by years, I believe they would become a pair of friends who forget their years. The little guy is very good. Your purpose here should be to save him. Without excessive procrastination, God Ju went straight to the theme. At this time, Xiao Yang has also put down his wariness of the old man, smiled and nodded, stepped forward, bowed his hand respectfully to Master Tianjue, and said, "The resurrection of the younger generation's ancestors needs to be supported by the power of the source of the soul. Therefore, the younger generation asks the elder generation to help the younger generation's ancestors." After the words fell, Xiao Yang bent deeper, and the expression on his face was also respectful. "He, I'm just a remnant now, and I won't last long. Besides, since your ancestor has also practiced the source determination, we can say that we are also of the same origin. In addition, I deliberately left the power of the source of the soul, which was meant to be obtained by someone. If the source of my soul can really revive your ancestor, it's a good thing," and, at last, the old man was silent. Xiao Yang didn't feel anything strange. Then, the ghost of Xiao Xian in his arms flew forward uncontrollably and returned to the old man's hands again. The old man pinched and printed with his hands, and the milky white fog around him seemed to be under some kind of instruction, and quickly converged towards the milky white energy light mass between his hands. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang's face changed slightly and hurriedly said, "Elder generation, the remnant soul of the younger generation's ancestors is too weak now. I'm afraid you can use this direct integration. Don't worry, if you force the fusion, you might need to consider this, but I took the initiative to give him the source of my soul. Under my control, my source of soul will not have any effect of counteracting. As for your ancestor, in his current weak state, I believe it can't conflict with my fusion. In this way, the speed of fusion will not only increase fast, and the power of the source of his soul will be more complete, which is only good for your ancestor." At the same time, a huge soul force also poured into Xiao Xian's remnant soul. Sure enough, as he said, the fusion process of the origin of the soul was particularly smooth, even faster than that after Xiao Yang helped to refine in the past. Perhaps it was also because the two of them practiced the same skills. Anyway, with the support of the original power of the soul of God Ju, I believe Xiao Xian will have a greater chance of recovery. At the thought of this, Xiao Yang can't help feeling a little excited. After many years, if he sees Xiao Xian's ancestors again and they meet, I don't know what kind of atmosphere it will be. In the stone statue, the huge soul power is integrated with Xiao Xian's remnant soul at a speed visible to the naked eye, and Xiao Yang consciously withdrew from it in order not to affect it. He believes that with the control of heaven and God, Xiao Xian will not happen. Outside, Luo Ao frowned slightly when he saw Xiao Yang open his eyes. Luo Jin on one side also dropped his eyes on Xiao Yang. Absorption is complete. Luo Ao frowned. He didn't feel any change in Xiao Yang's soul power. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang shook his head with a smile, raised his eyes and looked at the stone statue in front of him. Just when he was about to speak, a powerful energy storm suddenly swept through the outside of the hall. With only one blow, the wall outside the hall was cracked, and dense cracks filled it quickly. Then, in Xiao Yang's shocked eyes, powerful energy storm will destroy the whole wall. The powerful energy powder storm instantly destroyed the walls around the hall, together with the array associated with the whole ancient tomb. The appearance of this sudden scene not only surprised Xiao Yang, but also surprised Luo Ao and Luo Jin. What's going on? The three looked at each other quickly, and immediately moved, flew forward, skimmed over the ruins in front of them, and came to the front of the hall. When he got here, Xiao Yang couldn't help looking back at the stone statue in the depths of the hall. After confirming that there was nothing wrong, he looked straight ahead with a low face, and his eyes were fierce. The three men glanced away. After a look, they noticed that at this time, a large number of dark shadows were rapidly flashing in the distance in front of the three men, and the cry of killing came into their ears from a distance. It seems that someone blew himself up just now. Seeing this scene, Luo Ao narrowed his eyes and didn't care much about Dao. At this time, Xiao Yan was staring at the group of figures, staring at the front of them. Those people seemed to belong to the same team, while those behind them were chasing this small team. The team was in a panic. It seemed that they had no choice but to escape here. However, Xiao Yang at this time did not care about the escape direction of the group, but the identity of the group. After the crowd gradually approached, the line of sight became more and more clear. Finally, Xiao Yang also saw the group of people. The remaining 4 people are all dressed in white robes. From the style of white robes, we can see that they belong to the same force. At the moment, 3 of the 4 people are old, and only one young man is running frantically under the protection of these 3 people. This line of 4 is Murong Xian's team. Their fighting spirit was found to have been frantically pursued by the group of forces behind them. After a big war, some of the team of their peers failed to fight and died, while others chose to explode in order to protect Murong Xian. Therefore, they were able to delay the team behind them until now. Unfortunately, with the development of the situation, soon, the people behind them came again. I want to see how many times you can explode. In the team, an old man in hemp robe, with a grimace on his face, ordered the strong fighting emperor around to frantically pursue the 4 people in front, and this person is undoubtedly Yi Luotian. The distance between the 2 sides has been getting closer and closer. The rear attack is constantly exploding on the ground behind the 4 people. Once the 4 people move slowly, they will be bombarded by the rain-like attack. Damn it! They're going to kill them all. Murong Xian could not help but show a trace of despair on his face. He felt the closer and closer attack behind him, and his heart had sunk to the bottom of the valley. If they could just hand over the fighting spirit inheritance, they would have left here long ago, but in the end, they found that these people not only want to get the fighting spirit inheritance, but also want to kill everyone in the ancient tomb. They don't intend to let anyone go. Young lord, don't worry. Even if you fight this old life, your subordinates will save you out. You must not despair. Aside, the white-haired old man constantly encouraged Murong Xian. No matter what, he would never let Murong Xian have an accident. Once something happened to the latter, he would die and die in peace. Uncle Quan, let's go together. Murong Xian clenched his teeth and just wanted to hold the latter's wrist, but the old man took a step and suddenly grabbed Murong Xian's wrist. His powerful strength immediately gathered on his arm. One was to throw the latter out. Then, the fighting spirit in the palm turned into a violent wind and pushed the 3 people around him out together, and he himself is already exposed to the attack of the group behind him. Ha ha! A bunch of bastards, come on, let me meet you for a while. When he turned around, the old man's mouth burst into laughter. At the same time, the fighting spirit in his body became violent in an instant. Then, when the group of people behind him arrived, the old man's body exploded. Boom! The amazing energy wave swept away in all directions, and all the cities below were destroyed. At the same time, it also exposed the mysterious runes under the surface. This is. Before the ruins of the main hall, Luo Ao and Luo Jin saw this scene. Their faces suddenly changed slightly. In their hearts, they understood why a useless city was built in such a large ancient tomb. This is not a great man's hobby at all. He just took this opportunity to cover up the whole array below. I'm afraid this big array is not weak even if it is placed in the 6th order. Luo Ao's eyes were frozen, and there was a bad hunch in his heart. Uncle Quan, seeing the old man who had accompanied him for many years die, Murong Xian was very angry at this time. He never thought that there would be such a day between him and Murong Quan. Lao Quan, are you really so dead? On one side, another old man could not help hissing and lamenting, and tears burst out in his eyes. He is old and affectionate, not to mention his good brother who has accompanied him all his life. At this moment, the old man's beating heart seems to suddenly stop, and the anger on his face dissipates most of it in a twinkling of an eye. Drink. I want you to die. Suddenly, Murong Xian's mouth gave a hoarse angry drink. At the same time, his body moved. Regardless of the obstruction of the people around him, he rushed directly to the crowd in the rear. Little Lord. The remaining 2 old men were shocked and set off quickly to catch up. However, in front of Murong Xian's Wind Avenue, their speed was incomparable, but in the twinkling of an eye, Murong Xian's body appeared within the attack range of the group again. At this moment, even with the hearts of those who fight against the emperor, they can't help but touch slightly. How many people can do this for their subordinates in the mainland? At this moment, even they could not help but have a trace of pity for Murong Xian in front of them. Well, however, if they pity others, who will pity them? Now even their own lives are also in the hands of Yi Luotian. If they don't obey, they will die. For the latter, their hearts are only afraid. Of course, Yi Luotian's purpose is exactly the same. He doesn't need real loyalty. He doesn't believe anyone. In his eyes, there is only the relationship between the creatures on the continent, but unfortunately, he is the user. Soon, in the sad and angry eyes of the two Murong families fighting Emperor Strongmen, the dense bombardment like raindrops fell on Murong Xian, who died. Boom! With a roar, the wind and dust dispersed. Everyone stared and saw that there was nothing where Murong Xian stood just now. What? Just when Yi Luotian was slightly surprised, two figures appeared in front of them in the void. One of them is Murong Xian, and the other one is the one who immediately makes Yi Luotian's face gloomy. Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang. It's you again. Do you want to ruin my good deed? Yi Luotian's face was extremely gloomy. Seeing that the fighting spirit inheritance was close at hand, he was disturbed by the people in front of him, which really made him angry. At the same time, when the light from the sky fell on Xiao Yang, beside him, a man in black robe also looked back at him. His eyes were like poisonous snakes, which made people shudder. Hihi, Yi Luotian, you and I are already intolerable. It's reasonable to damage your business. What's more, he's not the person you can move. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang sneered. Immediately, his eyes involuntarily fell on the man in black beside Yi Luotian. It's him. The guy around Qin Yun, but how can he appear next to Yi Luotian now? His eyes narrowed falsely, and Xiao Yang felt a burst of doubt in his heart. What is the origin of the man in black? Looking at the position he is standing now, it doesn't seem to be controlled by Yi Luotian. There must be a special relationship between the two people, maintaining the balance between them. With this in mind, Xiao Yang's eyes turned again, and then he found Yang Hua's fierce figure among those people, but he never saw Qin Yun. This really surprised Xiao Yang's heart. Xiao Yang wouldn't be surprised if the black-robed man betrayed Qin Yun, but Yang Hua and Yang Lai are Qin Yun's exclusive guards. Why are they standing in Yi Luotian's team? Of course, these are irrelevant to Xiao Yang at the moment. The important thing is to solve the group of guys in front of him first. You. Why did you save me? At this time, Murong Xian also recovered from the sudden change just now. When his eyes turned, he saw Xiao Yang beside him. Immediately, his face was slightly stunned and couldn't help asking. As I said just now, there is already a conflict between me and him. Breaking his business is a good thing for me. Not to mention that you are Murong Qianqian's brother, I have more reason to do it. Xiao Yang smiled with no intention of concealing. I think the last sentence is more reliable, but even so, I will still blame you for my sisters running away from home. Hearing Xiao Yang's words, the surprised look on Murong Xian's face gradually dissipated. The impulse of the previous moment was soon pressed at the bottom of his heart. His eyes calmly flashed over Xiao Yang in front of him. Then, he looked at Yi Luotian with hate. Leaves fall from the sky. I remember what happened today. In the future, I will return it with my own hands. Somehow, although there were 20 strong 9-star fighting emperors in front of him, when Xiao Yang appeared next to him, Murong Xian's despair was swept away in an instant, and his voice was cold. Jia. Tomorrow? I'll have a look. It's up to you too. Oh, no, how can you escape from my palm? Yi Luotian's eyes brushed dismissively from the two guardians of Murong Xian, a 9-star duty and an 8-star duty. Such strength is not worth mentioning in the current situation. Hihi, Yi Luotian, I didn't expect that you controlled so many strong 9-star fighting emperors by relying on dead leaf insects, but you are unpopular. I believe you will kill yourself sooner or later. Without taking care of the former, Xiao Yang's eyes swept over the 20 strong 9-star fighting emperors, with a cold sarcasm in his tone. The final result of power control will only kill himself. Now, the end of Yi Luotian has been seen, and he will die in his own hands sooner or later. Power is better than truth. Maybe you're right, but I'm afraid you can't wait for that day, because you're going to die now. Yi Luotian snorted coldly, and then with a sudden wave of his sleeve robe, ordered the 20-strong 9-star fighting emperors around him to rush over to Xiao Yang. At Mirongshuan's side, the 2 fighting emperor strong men quickly came forward and protected them around. At the same time, they also surrendered their dignified eyes to the 29-star fighting emperor strong men opposite them. In the face of such a terrible lineup, they have no chance of winning, but even so, in order to protect Mirongshuan from injury, they will never shrink back. Hihi, let me do it. Xiao Yang's dark eyes flickered slightly, with a sneer on his face. He stepped forward slowly, walked to the front of the 4 people, and slowly raised his hands in the surprised eyes of the 2 old people behind him. The palm was raised, and the palm was facing the 29-star fighting emperors, but did not use any power. The 2 old men behind them looked at each other, bit their teeth and swallowed a mouthful of saliva, but they didn't dare to relax at all. Although they had seen Xiao Yang defeat them with their own eyes, now it is very different from before. No matter how strong Xiao Yang's combat power is, he can never be the opponent of 29-star fighting emperors. Therefore, even they can't fully believe Xiao Yang in their hearts. Jia. For this wonderful scene, even Yi Luotian couldn't help laughing and disdaining. In the face of 29-star fighting emperors, it's no different from looking for death to dare to make such a perverse move. As for the black-robed man standing beside him at the moment, his face under the black robe was frowning and thinking. For Xiao Yang, his understanding of the latter is far better than the people around him. He believes that Xiao Yang is definitely not such a stupid person to die. The reason why he dares to act like this must be a certain certainty. But at this moment, even if he couldn't think of it, how could Xiao Yang still have the power of backhand in the face of 29-star fighting emperors at the same time? This is incredible. Then, however, the doubts of the black-robed people got the answer immediately. Yes. Faint words came out of Xiao Yang's mouth. The next moment, when a group of strong fighters surrounded Xiao Yang, and all kinds of powerful fighting skills fell from the sky like raindrops. When they bombed the 4 people, the world suddenly solidified. No, it's not solidification, but all the actions of the people present are controlled by a powerful force. Even the fighting skills that fly out are also firmly fixed in the air. Xiao Yang's word really stopped the attack of the 29-star Dudi strong men. Immediately, just when everyone felt extremely frightened, 2 figures dressed in black appeared beside Xiao Yang, just like ghosts. This video will end here.